Welcome to the Legacy Crusaders YouTube channel. This is Benji, and on this episode of Ask Judgeman, we're going to be discussing some ruling specifics about the new structure deck, the Lair of Darkness structure deck. And in this particular video, we will be discussing Lair of Darkness, the field spell, on its own, and in a follow-up, we'll be talking about the other 5 new cards. So let's read Lair of Darkness, and we'll stop after each part in order to make sure we don't miss any important key details. So the first sentence on this card says, all face-up monsters on the field become dark. Now, if a monster is face down, it doesn't have an attribute, so it makes sense that it wouldn't be affected, and it's not considered dark, so you can't use Lair of Darkness on a face-down monster. Additionally, this effect is continuous, meaning if somebody chains a quick play card that would destroy this card, that part of the effect is not relevant. So if you chain MST to Lair of Darkness, the face-up monsters on the field are still considered whatever their current attribute is, and the effect that allows you to tribute one of your opponent's monsters is also not currently relevant because Lair of Darkness is not resolved. So if you MST Lair of Darkness, the monsters do not become dark, and the tributing effect is not relevant. Let's actually read the tributing effect. If you attribute a monster or monsters to activate a card effect, you contribute one dark monster your opponent controls, even though you do not control it. So the text on this card states that if you would tribute a monster or monsters. So if the card allows you to tribute multiple monsters, you can tribute one of your opponent's monsters. It doesn't say that you contribute monsters your opponent controls. It says you contribute one dark monster your opponent controls. So if this card's already successfully resolved, all face-up monsters on the field are dark, unless they're unaffected by Lair of Darkness, like Masterpiece, the True Draco Slaying King, should you have tributed a spell card for his summon. So you contribute one dark monster your opponent controls. This is only relevant while this card is face up on the field. And the other part of this that's very important that most people miss is it says if you attribute a monster or monsters to activate a card effect. Now that implies that the tribute is a cost. Now certain cards are not costs when you activate them, but they do state that you tribute. So some cards that you can use for Lair of Darkness include Enemy Controller, Share the Pain, Horn of Heaven, any Infernoid monster, and cards that do not work include the Ritual spell to summon any ritual monster, the effect of Necros of Valkyrus. There are others as well, I'm not going to get into them all, but any card that tributes as part of the effect of the card is not something you can use with Lair of Darkness, but anything that tributes as a cost does work with Lair of Darkness, which actually makes Lair of Darkness a better card because costs are paid when the card is activated, not afterwards. So if you tribute a card that has an effect on the field, it'll be tributed before it can chain to respond. So in the instance of like Tornado Dragon, if you tributed the Tornado Dragon to activate Lilith, Lady of Lament, to search a trap card, the Tornado Dragon can't trigger to chain to that to pop the field spell because it will have already been sent to the graveyard and not be on the field, so it won't be a monster that's relevant anymore. A few more important things about this tribute effect, and it's very important that the monster you tribute that your opponent controls must be a valid target for the card that you're activating. So if you were activating Lone Fire Blossom that says you can tribute one plant monster that you control in order to summon a plant monster from your deck, you contribute one of your opponent's dark plant type monsters to activate that effect because it is a cost. It does meet the requirements of Lair of Darkness, although if their monster is not a plant, you can't activate Lone Fire Blossom to tribute a plant, you just can't use their monster. So the monster that is tributed to activate the card, meaning paid the cost, has to be a relevant target for that cost. So if you make one of their plants dark, you can use it, but if it's not a plant, you can't use it with Lone Fire Blossom, and any other card that would have a similar scenario. And last but not least, we have to discuss the token summoning effect of Lair of Darkness. Once per turn during the end phase, you can special summon as many torment tokens, which are level 3 Dark Fiends with 1000 attack and defense, as possible to the turn player's field in defense position, up to the number of monsters that were tributed this turn while this card was face up. So it's a mandatory summon. It will trigger in the end phase of both players' turns, and you have to declare that it's being activated. You really should have a die out on the table on top of the card to keep track of how many monsters were tributed. Now, it says while this card was face up, so if you do activate a new Lair of Darkness over the current Lair of Darkness, you can make it so that you don't summon any tokens, but since it's your turn when you would activate Lair of Darkness, you probably wouldn't want to do that. Although you could also play Metaverse and activate a new Lair of Darkness over your current Lair of Darkness before the end phase in order to avoid your opponent getting some tokens, or perhaps play a card like Set Rotation and set the Lair or a different card over it. That should finish up this video. If you want to see the rulings in relation to the other cards of the Lair of Darkness structure deck, being Diablos, Arima, Duke Shade, Grinning Virus, and what was the last card? Lilith, Lady of Lament. We'll take a look at those soon, and we'll see you next time.